What's up, everybody? My name is Max Gillespie. I'm the co-founder of Rebar Radar. We're a tech startup here based in New York City. We do real estate data management for folks in the industry. We're currently in an accelerator in New York City. So we've been at it for about a year building, and I was thinking recently, what are the lessons that I've learned that I would have loved to know on day one? Most of our growth has been in the last 3 months. So I thought I would share what I've learned, my experience over the last 12 months or so building the company, so that maybe I can help somebody kind of not make the same mistakes that I've made up to this point, share what I've learned. So hopefully it'll be useful. Gonna keep it short and sweet. Let's get started. At a high level, what I want to cover really falls into 3 categories. So the product, the placement, and the pricing. That's it. Starting with product. Your first instinct when you start a company of any kind, particularly in the software space though, is to build. This is a massive mistake. Avoid this at all costs. Instead, you should focus on the customer. It doesn't matter the problem that you're solving. You need to hone in on who are you selling to. So conduct as many interviews as possible with who you think would buy your product. The term you should care about in this case is ICP. It stands for Ideal Customer Profile. Your first instinct to build is not necessarily a bad instinct. It's good to have a minimum viable product to show people, to get them excited. However, if you just build based on your assumptions for what somebody might want, you'll spend a lot of time and cycles kind of iterating on something that doesn't really necessarily provide value. Sure, there are one-off cases, but build it as they come is generally not a good strategy. When you find even one person with a problem, ideally a couple, build the simplest version possible for what solves the problem. In my opinion, you shouldn't spend more than 2 weeks building your first version of this product that really solves this person's problem. Basically, you could spend a week or 2 weeks interviewing as many people as possible in your space, and then spend another 2 weeks building a product. You should have a working version of the product that somebody can use within a month of starting. One of the things that gets bounced around a lot, the more people I speak to in the space, is that if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you waited too long to ship. And this is probably the best advice ever. Do not take this advice for granted. And from there, yeah, you'll be embarrassed by your first version. So iterate rapidly. It's going to be very important that you iterate rapidly, that you keep building, you keep iterating, listening to customer feedback, and more than anything else, keep conducting customer interviews, because what people tell you about what their pains are, what their most painful experiences in their day-to-day life are really the areas where you're going to provide disproportionate value and your startup will really succeed. Number 2, placement. This one is a little bit more esoteric, so bear with me. In my opinion, we're going through one of the most dramatic changes in what it means to be a company in general, but a startup, that we've seen, certainly I've seen in my lifetime. If you're in your 20s, it's the most dramatic change that you've seen in your lifetime. Interest rates are higher than ever, and investors, for the first time in our lives, really don't want to invest in any random company. So what's very important and more valuable than ever is the ability to bootstrap your product. Gone really are the days where you can expect to just raise a ton of money and then throw money at marketing, throw money at sales, throw money at development. You can't do that. What you can do is focus on partnership. So take my company, for example. We do 3D data visualizations for submarkets in real estate. So we created a partnership with a real estate newsletter, and we basically sell data from that newsletter, scrape everything off the newsletter, have it in this data portal, and sell it to folks in the industry that read that newsletter. So we create a win-win situation where we're the platform provider and they get to monetize the information in their newsletter in a way that they never had before. You can take that concept and you can really apply it to any space, right? Like, you shouldn't have to really market your product. You should be able to come up with these places where you can construct these win-win situations. Your product is powering some kind of white label situation like ours is, or it's just placed in the right place. And if you can get a free product placement for your company with a source that has enough eyes every month, it's absolutely worth it. And this, I think, is the key to really effectively bootstrapping, because without that, you won't have new eyes, new people seeing your product every month, and that is key to growth. The other thing to think about is kind of gamifying that expansion process. So if you take Venmo as an example, Venmo did a really good job of attracting early users, and what they did was they basically said, hey, for every contact that you invite that accepts the invite, you'll get $1 onto the platform. So this is another interesting strategy, right? Because people would invite 1,000 contacts, each one of them would get $1, and in many cases, those dollars just stayed in the Venmo ecosystem. So until they withdrew the money, the dollars were free for Venmo. So this is another good example. It was not very expensive to acquire customers for Venmo early, and because acquiring new customers kind of inherently led to people using the ecosystem more, it ended up driving consumption anyway. So not a partnership per se, but again, placing your product in front of new eyes, again, in a very novel way. Getting creative with that placement is what I'm getting at, is very important. Lastly, product pricing. So I have some strong opinions on this one. A lot of people want to launch and just have free options. In my opinion, this is a mistake. It's fine to offer a free version of your product, but you need to explicitly understand why you're offering that. Because the reality is that if you're charging somebody and they're paying for your product, what you know for sure is that the amount that they're paying is smaller than the number of dollars of pain they're experiencing to solve this problem, or in a vacuum. People only pay less than the number of dollars of pain in their life that they're experiencing without buying the product. If your product is priced at $50 per user per month, most likely the company or individual is experiencing at least $100 of pain per month. So sizing your customer's pain is extremely important. When you only have a free version of a product, it's effectively impossible to understand at an early stage how much value are you really delivering. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't have a free version to attract people at the top of funnel, particularly going back to the partnership example. It is important to give things out for free and kind of give value, build good faith. That's important. But you need to have a version of the product that's paid to understand, and ideally it should be informed by your early customers so that you can understand what really is the value of what you're offering, right? Because if you're never able to monetize it, you're not gonna have a business. Anyway, those are my 2 cents. It's been a long time since I've made a YouTube video, so let me know if you found this interesting. Again, I'm in an accelerator in New York, have a lot of strong opinions. If you're thinking of building something, bouncing ideas around in the comments, was this useful? I'll see you guys soon.